Let's rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Fellow board members and cabinet, thank you, welcome, and to staff and others who may be here. As is our habit, if there is anyone here that is wanting to speak in item number 11, unscheduled audience participation, I would ask that you would grab a card from Angela, or Angela, where are those? Are they on the table over there?
Yeah.
These aren't the cards? Those aren't the cards, but we are going to, yeah. You can't write anything anyways. So if you're here to speak on unscheduled participation, please fill out a card, get those to Angela so that we can, in an orderly way, have those conversations. And also there are rules about time limits and other things on the cards that we would ask you to please read. Ms. Schaefer, would you please take attendance?
President Donnelly,
Here.
Vice President D'Alessandro,
Here.
Secretary Schaefer, here. Treasurer Bailey,
Here.
Trustee Griffith,
Here.
Trustee Foster,
Here.
Trustee Heisner.
President.
Cancer.
Thank you.
Gosh, I'm sorry. And I had dancer. And something else came out, and I apologize. Keep mispronouncing her name.
No snow day for a board. How do you like that? We're here. We're doing it.
Right.
All right. We have a consent agenda that is 2 days of minutes. Remember, we had our regular meeting on January 22nd. We also had a workshop on the 26th. And we have some HR recommendations that were in our packet. Would someone like to make that motion? Please, Chad.
I move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Is there support? Eric? Support. Is there discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Prearranged requests?
None.
Board of Education matters. We have a motion before us. I think it was Mr. Card that was here at our last meeting talking to us about this event. And would someone like to take a look at that motion? Please, Mary.
Move to approve the high school choir field trip to Orlando, Florida in 2019.
Is there support? Chad, support? Discussion? Yes, sir.
What is our policy on that many days? Are they all excused absences, or how does that work? 'Cause I mean, if you look through the whole program, I know they're singing the one day. Are all days excused absences, or?
I think it's part of the trip, yes.
Okay.
Any other questions? Yes, please.
We provide busing to and from the airport, is that right?
Some trips, maybe, I'm not sure all of them, but I'm sure on some of them we do. I don't know if we know on this one.
I believe so. Yeah.
Please.
I'm just looking at the itinerary. It does say depart OHS via school bus.
I thought it did say that. Anything else? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. B, now this is mine. First of all, Angela wanted to thank you for putting together our special workshop that we had. My comments today are predominantly for our community. One of the things that we did besides have some training on how to do this gentleman's review, we also looked at how we interact as a board. A good portion of our discussion prior to the early part was about that. And so Mary and I were having a conversation just this last week. And one of the things that I've been churning on, and I wanted the board to think about this, reflect on it, as well as the community, is that we as board members will engage often in conversation with people. I think of Heather, who not only has kids in the school, but she's also physically in the schools helping out, and Mary, you're involved in robotics, and so you got these things, right? And so when are you a board member, and when are you not a board member, and who do you talk to, and how do you do it? And so one of the things, as Mary and I were talking, that I thought came to my mind that we all should think about is, number one, that we have to wrestle with that question. The community needs to know when they come up to us with something, we have to wrestle with the question. Are you coming to me to talk to me as Tom Donnelly, a citizen here in Oxford? Or are you coming to talk to me because you know I'm the president of the school board? I think if we got better at asking that question up front of ourselves or of someone talking to us, we now know what roads to drive down. If an individual says, I'm talking to you as a school board member, then we know that our objective is, one, to care, two, to get them back into some processes and procedures that might meet their need, because the school has processes and procedures to do that, and that we would steer them back into those things, and then seeking for them to give us some input if they have any issues, or let us know that it got resolved, right? And at that moment, what we've done is we've listened and we've helped someone back into the process that ultimately Tim is responsible for, and ultimately we hold accountable for the processes, right? If someone's talking to you because you're Mary and you work with robotics, well, then talk about robotics and be Mary. You see what I mean? And I think sometimes we might even have to qualify with someone. I'm talking to you as Mary. I'm talking to you as Tom Donnelly, right? And making that clear with the person that we're talking to, so that we don't get abused or used or put into a tough spot, right? But I think our first reaction is, if we're ever talked to as a board member, it's that we're being sympathetic, empathetic to whatever that might be, and reflecting them back to, who have you talked to? Who in the system? Where have you entered into the system with this? We do not want them thinking we're their advocate to get it solved. At that moment, we've stepped into something which we learned in that session that isn't our role. Our role is to make sure that they get heard. Our role is to make sure they get in the system and make sure it gets resolved. And then ultimately, if it doesn't, come upward to Tim and have him go downward and get it fixed, right? And so I just think that was a really good conversation, but it made me think about the fact that I wanted to mention some of that here in this meeting publicly for you as the community. I mean, you know, we're not professional, like, politicians. We are members of the community trying to do the best job that we can. And I think from now on, I'm going to start just asking the question. I just need to know which one of me you're talking to. If I know which one you're talking to, I think then I can begin to travel down the right road. So if that makes sense to you, I hope it does. It's kind of what we learned. But I wanted the community to know that we spent a lot of time learning this stuff and working on it. And so thank you for just a few minutes to talk about that. Mr. Weaver, curriculum and instruction?
Yeah, we've got a presentation.
Just a few things?
Yeah, just a few things.
All right.
You should have seen the curriculum in your board packet, so hopefully you've read it all. It'll be a good
Oh, that word.
I have a hard copy of
It's only, 900 pages.
It wasn't as exciting as all the policy stuff, I just want you to know.
I'm going to introduce our Executive Director of Elementary Instruction, and she is going to introduce those that are presenting. So, very good. Miss Concha.
All right, so this evening we have, ladies, if you want to stand up, there we go, you guys kind of separated. Rita Flynn, who serves as IB coordinator at DA and OE. Stephanie Nemi, who serves as IB coordinator at Clear Lake. And Christine Vince, who serves as IB coordinator at Leonard and Lakeville. And they're going to just kind of give you an update on the curriculum revision process, and also kind of share a little bit of what IB is all about, especially for our new board members. So I'm going to turn it over to them. Yeah.
change it up for you guys. I'm sure you have a lot of questions. This is setting the tone that we are really focusing on inquiry, so establishing your inquiring minds. When we were thinking about how to present, I'm never really sure who to look at. I want to look at everybody. And this is, I'm going to come over here now. Is this okay?
Yeah.
So there's so much that our teachers have put just their heart in. And you can see that is evident in that huge 1,098 page packet. And that still isn't all of it. But something that I just want to give you, like, in the learning experience, is something that we do, is the POI, before we start every unit, we have something that we call a provocation. And it's very similar to what you know as a connector. And the connector is your hook. So we want the students to be engaged in the learning experience, and I wanted to do that, we want to do that with you. So with that in mind, we have here a wooden block that you all have in front of you. And on that block, you're going to write 4 things, and this should be fast. It's the first thing that comes to mind. And because I know that these are things that you value, I know it'll come to your mind right away. So I did it first, so I'm going to first model what that is, because this is what we do in the workshop model as well. On your paper here, it says something you value. So the thing that I value, we have many values, but one thing that's really strong to my heart is relationships. And the reason I put relationships is because I value people, and I want to take really good care of those people that I make connections with, but I also make a connector, so I'm trying to connect with people as much as possible. So that is one of my values. Something that I wish for my child's educational experience. Right now I have someone that is in DA, and that's one of my 3 children. And something I want her to take with her, I want her to be a lifelong learner. I want her to continue to be curious and open to people and the curriculum around her, the world around her. So I want to be a lifelong learner. 2 skills that are also meaningful to me is collaboration. I think that's a hard skill. It's not something that is easy. It takes tolerance, it takes being open-minded. A lot of times, you know, we're working with students, they want to put their own thought in, but at the same time, we want to value others' opinions. So that skill of learning how to collaborate is huge. And another one is mindfulness. For me, I chose mindfulness because to be mindful of others and mindful of myself, I think that helps us keep that school and home harmony. So, and this is, again, this is the first thing that came to mind. So I'm going to give you the opportunity to do that. So you have a Sharpie in front of you. While you're doing that, there's other blocks you've seen in front of you. We have science, writing, and art, international mindedness, world language, and key concepts, all of these things. So within our POI and within our unit planners, all of these things are represented. But we also want to represent one more piece, and that is your block here. So we're going to give you about 2 minutes to do that.
See him again, Rita. Like, over there.
We have it on a purple sheet right in front of you too.
Thank you.
Our students too, they have that visual is always powerful for students. They have something they can touch and feel and see. And if I have anyone that would like to share their blocks, that would be great. I want all of you to share, but I know we're in a time crunch here, so. So as you finish up, thank you so much. Were you interested in sharing? Okay, thank you. Go ahead.
Something I value is family.
Can you say your why too? Why?
Because it's my family. For my children's education, I want them to be balanced. I think that we focus on relationships and academics. But I think you have to have a balance. It always can't be just about relationships, and it always just can't be about academics.
Okay, so I have to put this up yet. Now, the reason we're putting the blocks up here is because when we're teaching our curriculum, we have something that is called, what is it? One of our units, so all of our curriculum is based under 6 themes, and one of them is who we are. So when we're teaching our content, we're also teaching the traditions, beliefs, and values of our students. So that's weaved into what we do. And it's important because when we want them to be taking their learning outside the classroom, can I take these? We also want them to be valuing each other. That's how real learning happens, because then they're bouncing ideas off each other, and they're curious, and then they're making connections. All of it matters. And the IB curriculum makes that matter. I feel like something that people ask me is, well, what makes IB different? And I think the caring is emphasized more than anything else. Because we care about it all. And really these blocks, I mean, they could go to the ceiling, but this foundation is what we're giving our students. So when I put our 6 themes on top of it, we put all of this in our curriculum under these 6 themes. Here's our 1,090 pages. So there's another visual for you. We love to talk about this all day long, but I know that we are limited in time, but I have 2 fabulous coordinators that are going to kind of dig you deeper into the process, but I hope that was something that will kind of set the tone for our work.
So we're here tonight to present to you our units of inquiry and our programs of inquiry. But also, we feel like we can't just do that because clearly it's a little intense. So what we're trying to use this to show is that when we are thinking of writing our curriculum or framing it in this, all of this comes into that thought process. So we're going to share some of that with you as well tonight. So each school has its own program of inquiry, or POI, and this should be in your packet. And each school, aside from our developmental kindergarten and our special subjects, each school has their own units of inquiry. So what's the difference between a program, or why do we have different ones for different schools? The PYP believes that this curriculum should be created through a ongoing collaboration between classroom teachers, subject specialists, community members, and students. So because each school is unique, each unit of inquiry is unique, and because each unit of inquiry is unique, each school's POI is unique. Okay? So we're going to begin with the easy one. We're going to begin with the program of inquiry, and this should be in your packet. Each school has one of these, so I want you just to think about the last time you saw a program. Perhaps you went to a play or a workshop. Maybe you wrote a computer program. Chances are that program had some sort of list on it. So if we think of a program in simplest terms as a list, then a program of inquiry you can think of as simply, it's a list. It's a list of all the school's grade level units of inquiry. Currently we have about 143 units of inquiry. And so these are highlighted on the school's POI, or program of inquiry. And I'm going to switch back and forth. I'm going to call it program of inquiry or POI. I can't help myself. That's what it stands for. The unit of inquiry is the tricky one. Okay, so the program is simply the list. So now we're going to talk about the units of inquiry. So to explain the units of inquiry, I have on the screen a first grade example and our blocks that I'm going to sort of show how this process has evolved over time. So the units of inquiry are the framework for the written, taught, and assessed curriculum. When we go to write and revise the units of inquiry, we are thinking about how do we teach and assess the content that needs to be taught, the concepts that need to be taught, how are we addressing the learner profile? How are we addressing the skills that students need to be successful, whether they be listening skills? How are we expanding their curiosity? How can we inspire them to take action? All of this we have to consider as we're developing these units. So, each unit of inquiry falls under one of the 6 themes. Could be how the world works, who we are, sharing the planet. There's 6 of them. Each unit of inquiry has a central idea, and this shows this up here. A central idea is like an essential understanding. It's like a meaningful, I always say to the teachers, it's so what? Why are we teaching this? It's that thing that when we're done with this unit, we want students to sort of take with them. Each unit of inquiry, I'm trying to think of what other common things they have. I think that's it. So we consider this as we're developing them. Each unit of inquiry should be engaging, relevant, and meaningful to student learning. And as PYP schools, our ultimate goal is that the unit of inquiry, that 90% of the teaching and learning takes place within the unit of inquiry. That's our hope. All right. So when we began this work 9 years ago, 9 years ago we began this work, we knew this. And we also knew that science and social studies had to live in the units of inquiry. All social studies, most of science. That was the ID requirement. So when we began to write the units, we took our science standards and our social studies standards. We pulled the concepts from those standards, found connections, and we put them under the themes. And then we began to write our units. So this example here is an example of that. At the time, we did not consider math. See if I can do this. We did not consider writing. I know, it's Jenga. We did not consider reading. It's tricky.
Even exciting.
Yeah. And I think that's all. We did not consider our math and ELA standards at this point, right? Because this was the requirement. So here's a Lakeville example. First grade, we're under how the world works, an inquiry into the natural world and its laws. The central idea we wanted the students to understand was that weather can be observed, predicted, measured, and described. Students were going to investigate weather patterns, weather instruments, and severe weather conditions. This was a great unit. This was an almost great unit. Remember earlier I said that 90% of our learning and teaching we want to be within the unit of inquiry. Well, I can assure you that 90% of the first grade learning was not about weather investigations. Chances are more likely that 90% of the learning that was taking place was in math or reading or writing. So we had a solid unit, but we had holes. We had taken the PYP requirement at face value, but didn't dig deeper into the greater picture of it. And we did not consider the more demanding requirements at the state, district, national level. At this time also the Common Core came out and GSS came out, so we had higher expectations, we had new resources, but we had a problem. So we had to go back and get back to the work. So this was also a problem because we were trying to create an inquiry frame of mind, an inquiry culture. But what was happening was you go into classrooms and it would be IB time, inquiry time. We were supposed to be at IB school. IB time was supposed to be all the time. Inquiry shouldn't be saved just for science and social studies. So we went back to the drawing board, and this time, when we looked at our standards, we took concepts from all of our standards, from our ELA, from our math, from our science, and our social studies. And this time, we looked for big concepts. So before, you might have been investigating ecosystems, but now you were investigating systems. Before, you might have been investigating immigration, but now we're looking at movement. Something that could connect to more areas. So here's my example of how it evolved, how they're evolving. So this is the first grade unit again. It's the same unit, but now it's evolved. Before, it was weather can be observed, predicted, measured, and described. All science content. Now, we make observations and examine characteristics to find patterns and make predictions. We are going to investigate collecting and interpreting information. I can do that in all content areas. We are going to investigate ways we observe change, and I can do that in all content areas. And we are going to see how we can use patterns to make predictions. I can still teach those weather concepts, but now I can make connections all day long. So now, see if I come back in. That's pretty good. We can do this all day, every day, and offer our students the opportunity to develop in all these ways every day. What do I have for next? Okay, so this is the work. The work is ongoing. We still continue to evolve these units, but this is the work that's reflected in those unit planners, and you will see that. You'll see some of the evolution of it, and some we're at a different stage than others. But we continue to collaborate, reflect, and provide, looking for those rich learning experiences for our students. And Stephanie's going to share what that looks like and the implications for our community.
Right, so bringing that paper, all that paper that's in your packet to life, what does this look like on a daily basis? It looks like collaboration. So it starts with the teachers, they're the ones that have their hands on that. I mean, it's so much work that has gone into what you see in front of you. So we are constantly collaborating. That's what we use our weekly morning meetings that we have in the buildings, the ones that we have once a month. That's a time for us to get together and talk as a staff. And you can see in our picture, like, it's not just also by grade level. We're trying to get all the staff involved, special ed teachers, our specialists. This is our time for everyone to come together to talk about how is inquiry going within the building and what are you doing in your classroom, right? To lift that work, to make those connections. So teachers are constantly in that process of reflecting on their units. Not only are the staff using their reflection skills, our students are also doing that, right? So even in this picture, these kids are first graders. They are learning through that paperwork, through those blocks, through those themes, how to collaborate, how to be in the real world and be a problem solver, use those thinking skills, and how to be reflective. At any given day, any time, in any of our buildings, you can walk through, you're gonna see those inquiry experiences in life. So I was just happening to walk down the hall, and I'm like, what are you guys doing? And they had taken what they had learned, so that content from that unit of social studies about government, and they had gotten together in the hallway and they were deciding that they were going to create their own government system in a 4th grade class. And they wanted to create like their own monetary system, and they actually broke themselves into 2 groups. They elected different speakers because they had learned through that content with that teacher how different governments operate, and they kind of internalize, like, how do we think this is going to work for us? And so they actually, like, this is all them. And then the other thing that I want to point out to you is the man that you see leaning in the picture, that's our custodian. He is not just like teachers and students. As an Ivy school, we're all in. It's everybody. So he also was walking by. He stopped. You see him standing there listening. He often will engage, he'll do a writing piece, he walks by, he does like those writing walks for himself. So, like, as a building, we are all living it, we are all in. Another thing that maybe what you won't see in the paperwork, but is one of our stronger experiences for our students, are the connections that we're making to our community and outside resources. So it's really showing students that where they live, they can make those community interactions, take action, and learn from each other. So here you see a field trip that we took to the high school. So our students are learning from secondary students, are being exposed to see what is that like at the secondary level. The secondary teachers have been fabulous as well, working with us. And what's amazing is that the kids can go up to the high school, and as we go around to, like this is a robotics class, like they see their units up too. So no matter where you're at in the community, we're all speaking that same language. And then lastly, we feel that, you know, a true testament of the learning is the action that our students are taking. So again, you're invited to come into any of the buildings at any time and just listen to what's going on. We all recognize action in some way. Might look a little bit different, but action is happening. It's happening with developmental kindergarten kids who are learning that, like, you know, if I see you and I smile and I say hi, that makes other people feel good. That's taking action. Up to them, we get to upper level grades where they're really starting to come up with different things that they care about. They're approaching like board members who are like, hey, I have this idea, like, you know, and they're getting involved. So action is going to look different across the spectrum in the grade levels, but we really feel like that's the truest form of summative assessment. When you're taking that content, you're taking those skills, you're taking a learner profile that we have embedded within the curriculum, and you're not living it, you're teaching it to others, you're sharing it, you're raising awareness. That's how we know, like, those pages have come alive, that we have done our work. Not saying that it's done, but we know, like, we're on that. It's working. It's working. Yeah. Okay. So I have a couple of videos to share with you of some examples of some of the action in our buildings.
Can you share with me what inspired you to take action?
It wasn't during a science lesson that made me think that there was a bunch of bottle caps on the ground, and I thought, why not just make a piece of art out of it instead of putting them in the recycling bin, so you can hang it on the wall and look what you've done with the bottle caps and see what you've done with them.
So this is Ryan. He was inspired during one of their science lessons in 5th grade, where they take them out and they have them look around their space, right? So they went out to the playground and he saw all this trash, he saw all this plastic. He wrote a letter to myself and Mr. Bigelow asking if he could take action to be able to collect bottle caps within the school. And then he wants to actually create bottle cap art. So he's put together an action plan. He actually just, I think last week, it's hard to figure out all the snow days, but he had gone home. He actually cut out the board that was going to be in the shape of a paw print. So we have that ready to go. And then the next time I see him, we're going to make like a little infomercial, so you'll see that.
Can you share with me what your experience has been like as an IB student?
Really just what inspired me to take action in doing a water drive through the school is just walking down the hallways, and being in IB school, we are constantly seeing like signs and posters with those reminders, like you have to be caring, be a thinker, be principled. So I think just having those constant reminders in IB school is what inspired me to take action.
And being in an IB school, throughout all of the grades that you're in, you always learn things that other people have done, and every year you learn new things that people around the world are doing, and that really motivates you to try to make a difference.
Yeah, like experiencing like what all these other people, like students have done that are like our age, and like seeing every single day like how we can help just our environment or like our local community, I think really inspired us a lot. And that like, it's not that hard to take action, but like, sometimes it like can be, because a lot of the times you can hit like thumbsitis, and it can be
Great, so these three girls actually approached me at the beginning of the year because they had heard on the news the situation with Detroit public schools and their water systems being turned off. And so they became interested, did research on like what was happening within the schools, how could they help. They decided that they were going to do a water drive. They also learned another thing within the BOI that again, it might not jump out, but the fact is that they learned and had the skills to persevere. They used their thinking skills because the original plan that they drafted did not exactly go to what we wanted to. So the school we originally were trying to reach out to and support didn't reach back. So we then had to go to a plan B. So what these girls learned through the action that they took was that we have to be resilient. We have to then continue to be a thinker. And what do we do next? So when you hear her say, like, we kind of hit some bumps, that was one of her reflections was that, you know, it might sound like, oh, I'm just gonna go do this, right? But in real life, we all know there are gonna be obstacles. There are gonna be pits that you fall into. What are you gonna do to get yourself back up and to keep going? So these girls then decided through some more research that, you know, we have our local fish food pantry right down the street from Clear Lake. So we reached out to them and then they were actually able to go and deliver to be able to see the people who were going to be receiving those water donations. And right there to me, again, they approached me. They wanted to do this. And they didn't give up when the first plan didn't go through. So your pages of the POI, by the time our kids are getting to 5th grade, these are the things that we're seeing happening in our buildings in our community. If you would love to see even more of that action, the three of us cordially invite all of you and the community to our 5th grade exhibition nights. So you can see the list of dates there. Because again, that's really that celebration for us in 5th grade, where their journey as a primary year student kind of culminates. And we really see them use all of the skills and that content they have learned along the way come together for that night. At this time, I'll take questions or comments. Yes.
So is there any sharing yet of, or say collaborating between elementary schools, so like POIs or something, so you can maybe cross-promote some ideas?
Yes, so our DK actually gets together because in certain buildings there's only like maybe one section of each. So the DK actually collaborates and has like a common POI as a district DK. We just at our last professional development day, all elementary teachers and specialists came together and we actually did like a gallery walk. So different teachers volunteered to share their craft and the ways that they were lifting inquiry within their classrooms. And so we had a lower L for developmental kindergarten through 2nd grade with teachers set up, and then teachers could actually go around and see the other work that's happening within other grade levels and also other schools. And then in the afternoon then we flip-flopped and we had like 3rd through 5th grade where those upper L teachers then shared their ways. So we're always trying to find those other ways to collaborate. So yes.
Well, thank you very much. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Well, as I'm going through all the information, just a little bit of information that we got, kind of looking back, you look at all the information and you say, oh, I didn't know that. You know, you pick out all these things that, you know, you think you know what IB is, and then you really start diving into it. Like the little things, I think the community would be interested to know, or their thought process is IB is just an IB diploma. So we're only serving that much of our total student population. So if you can answer me this question, and it's kind of an odd question, but if you were to say in 1 or 2 sentences, what is IB, and more importantly, what is not IB?
Ooh.
And I think I answered it for you this way. I'll answer the second part for you. IB isn't just a diploma
Right,
that we offer.
that is correct. Because actually, so all students in Oxford from development, actually we have a preschool program. So from preschool until 10th grade, all students are considered IB. Because after they leave 5th grade, they enter middle school and the middle years program. And then that runs until 10th grade. So if you think about actually like who are we servicing, like all the way to 10th grade. And then at that point, they would have a choice to elect to continue to the diploma program. But you think about like where those groups of students are even right now in the high school. So that junior class right now, that's a group that I actually launched IB. I was just telling Christine, we came back after Christmas break. And I brought like a giant garbage bag full of wrapping paper from Christmas and I dumped it out and that was our convocation. Like that was like the first day back from Christmas break. Those kids are now juniors. So like really I think like it's so much stronger now just because those kids have had it now for that much longer. And they started when they were in 3rd grade.
To answer your question, if I was to say what is IB or what does it offer, I would say that what I think they really, and I'm saying this because my sons are in high school now, so it's like being able to see sort of this progression. I think what it is it's a program that tries to help students make connections to their learning, to see themselves as independent learners so that they become empowered and are able to contribute to the world in a positive way. And that's what I would say in a basic. Because we're trying to constantly, with the PYP, we're concept-based and constructivist because we're trying to get those bigger concepts so that kids can build their understanding from where they were so that it really sinks in. So they can do that deep thinking.
You're looking for an elevator speech. And I asked Christine this just when we were doing this. I said, if you could say it, what would it be? And she was, put me on the spot, but I feel like people ask that a lot.
Well, that's...
And there's so much, but something I heard recently, and I'm gonna take it from a parent that, so IB is, it's getting more informative, and a parent said something that really stuck to me, and they give you hope. And I was like, I really stuck to that word. So it's a hope that will make a difference in the world. It's a hope for learning. It gives you like this inspiration. And something else that stood out is choice, voice, and ownership. Having students take their learning, have a voice with it, and be empowered by it, and taking ownership and doing something about it. So if I were to say it in a concise way, I would say hope, choice, voice, and ownership.
Thank you.
Just a quick comment. You use the word hope, and as a parent with kids in the schools, when we were all getting started with this, I see these traits. We don't talk through it a lot, but my daughter was recently preparing college essays for admission, and I could see these things coming out in the things that she's writing. And now I look back and I can see the behaviors and the attitudes that IB is teaching in the way that she presents herself and lives her life. So I appreciate that. So I think it's good. We need to hold on to that hope. But as a parent, I see it paying off. So the other thing that I wanted to say was this visual I thought was very powerful. I think it definitely helped me understand more about the challenges, including all these lessons together. So, and then finally, going through, looking at the photos, it's clear to me that part of the success of this program is the fact that our teachers and staff are modeling the same behaviors. And that's what I was picking up from this. So I appreciate that. So thank you. You guys, you're very passionate about it, as I can tell. So thank you.
President, just real quick. just to put 2 cents in, I started this journey with them about 4 years ago, or 5 years ago, I guess now when I took this position. It's been quite a huge undertaking. I would like to thank Stephanie, Rita, and Christine. They have been a driving force with the elementary teachers, and they have just done a tremendous amount of work. The 1,000 pages there, it doesn't even begin to highlight the amount of work that they have done with the teachers and just really pushing this forward and really being passionate and concerned about the state of IB and what it is. I do also want to thank the principals as well too. The principals, they were very instrumental and supportive of the IB coordinators and the teachers as well. It was a huge undertaking because this started with not only with the IB journey, but also redoing the math, the ELA curriculum, which is 90% of their day, and that was huge. And then I can remember 2.5 years ago sitting in the basement, and everybody coming to the realization, the elementary principals and the IB coordinators with, oh my gosh, we've got to redo our units. And this is huge, and we've got a visit, the reauthorization visit less than 2 years away. And the panic look and just trying to figure all of that out and to see where we've come and where we've ended up and getting through the reauthorization visits and coming through and getting the curriculum finally finished. And it was a huge undertaking to put all that together. And also the elementary teachers were just phenomenal. I mean, they went, if you can just imagine having 90% of your day redone. Somebody coming in and saying, you know, we can do this better. We're going to do this a little bit different, and having that upheaval in your life for 3 years, still going as well, and then taking, well, we still got our IB units. Well, we're redoing those, and by the way, we're redoing science too. And having all of that, I mean, it has been a ton on their plate, and they have risen to the challenge, and they have been phenomenal. And the units are excellent. If you just skim through them, you can see the quality at which they're written. They really embrace what they're doing in the classroom. Now we are living into them and trying to live into them. It's not a perfect product at this point, but we are continuing on that journey. I mean, when you ask kind of what IB is a journey. It's not a destination. We're constantly working on IB. We're constantly improving, just like a child that is in the IB system is constantly working to improve and working on their journey of their education and where they're going to end up. And that's what IB makes the education process. It makes it a journey, not a destination. Not, hey, I'm going to memorize facts. Not, I'm going to be able to spit out and regurgitate something for a test and never remember it after that. One of the things I wrote on my blog was I wrote relevance, and that's what also IB is. It gives you the relevance to relate it. It's how is that going to hook into that child and stay there so that they can remember. If you look back to your own education, whether it be college, high school, elementary, how much do you really remember from your education? You don't remember a whole lot, quite honestly, of what was actually taught to you. But you do remember those enduring understandings. You do remember those things that stay with you, and you do remember those skills. And IB is about all of that. It's about taking those skills, those academic skills, those social skills as well too, those emotional skills, all of that, and bringing that together and creating a whole child. That's what IB does, and that's why we're an IB district. And so I'd just like to thank the coordinators. They have been phenomenal. I'd like to thank Anita. She's helped to bring it home as well too, and helping us on the journey of living into all of this as well. And the principals as well. It's been fantastic, and very proud of all of them.
Thank you.
Perfect. I'll take it. Okay.
Is that the first pause we've ever had for Academy?
Yes, you want
Oh, yes.
Make sure Angela knows that. First time Ken got applause for part of his presentation.
Oh, yep, I got it. I got
think that was mostly good for it.
Something in a parenthetical.
Either that or that I was talking.
Mr. Weaver, what do we have next? Is that it?
I'm done.
You're good.
Yeah, I didn't know you could follow that up.
So, Mr. Barnum, budget revision?
Yes, good evening, everyone. This is what everyone came for, I know, so thank you again for sticking around. You know how I know that you came here for me in the budget? It's because of all the budget papers that are still over there, so thanks. So what you have in your board pack, in addition to being located over there for those in the audience who choose to follow along, because it may be a little bit busy on the screen, because I know it's busy on an 11 by 17 sheet of paper. This is the General Fund 2018-19 first amended budget for the year. And for those new board members, I'm not going to speak to the level that I'm showing you on the piece of paper that you have in front of you. I'm not going to read to you as an example, but I just wanted to show you because, again, you're new to being a board of trustee for obviously for the Board of Education, I should say. And I needed you to have at least a very basic understanding of what's in the actual classifications that you see within the general fund when it comes to revenue and expenses at a functional level. And you'll see that I created on the right-hand side, in the far upper right-hand side of the paper, an actual legend for you to kind of tie back to those high-level, what's in these revenues and what is really in these expenses. So I just want you to kind of play off that a little bit if you could, please. But again, I'm not going to read to you. We're just going to go fairly high level. But I wanted to also give the new board members kind of a very general overview. As you may recall, in late May and in June each year, we do both a final amended budget for the current year, current school year, and then we project forward for the next school year. And so that's done, and the board approves it. It's statutory. You need to do that under Michigan law, every school district, by June 30th of each year. So what happens is, obviously, we have student count in the fall, and we start to revise our numbers based upon our student count, obviously. And so that is what you see in front of you today. And so I'm just wanted to give that very high-level overview. You're not required as a public school district to do an amended budget during the year, but most public school districts do for obvious reasons. So really, the first thing that I wanted just to really just mention to you at a high level is the total revenue. In the first column, you'll see that it is it's called audited June 30th, 2018. What it is last year's ended June 30th, 2018. It's our audited financials. And so that's the actual spend and actual revenue received in the general fund for Oxford Community Schools. So that's that first column. The second column is the original budget that I presented to the board, and the board adopted back on June, I believe it was the 22nd or 24th of 2018. That is the column that is, again, the second column. It is not highlighted in any color. And then the column next to that is the first amended budget for this year. So it's, again, taking into consideration our fall enrollment, and as you can see at the very top, we assumed a 6,173 FTE, full-time equivalent student for this year back in June. We actually ended up with 6,418 blended count. We take 90% of the fall count and 10% from the prior spring count, and that's how that number is developed. And so right there, as you can see in the variance column, that's 316 students higher than what we originally budgeted for this year. Obviously a very good thing. Not many Michigan school districts can say that they're increasing enrollment, only a very few. So we're very proud of that fact. And again, much of that is due obviously to our virtual program as well as our shared time program, and so I want to give kudos to those programs. That's the predominant reason why we are growing as a school district in terms of students. Following that down, total revenues, I just wanted to show you our original budget, almost 61 million. Right now in the blue, you can see that we're a little over 63 million. Again, it's predominantly because of student count. Again, over 300 students FTE higher. Our foundation allowance is $7,871 per pupil. And so fairly simple math. There's some offsets to other non-state funding that we received revenue-wise or didn't receive. And so it nets out to, again, approximately a $2.1 million addition to revenue. Again, budget over budget. Original budget versus amended budget, which is 3.51%. Going into the expenditure side of the equation. You see here we have our largest function, and again, basic programs. And again, please refer to the legend that I created for you in the far right column to kind of give you a very high-level overview of what, again, is in those expenditure categories and most of it's personnel, obviously wages, benefits, obviously the curriculum, books, you name it. So I tried to be as specific as possible with the amount of room that I had available to me on this page. So again, I don't want to read to you, but overall, you see that as a total for expenses, we were estimating originally back in June that we were going to be at about 60.751 million again. That's the second column, the original budget. And right now, because of our higher enrollment and the fact that obviously with the higher enrollment, we have to increase staffing to service those students, not just staffing, but added curriculum, obviously partnerships from OVA and the tuition expense that we have to spend on the OVA tuition as well. That increases because of the increases in students. So to make a long story short, our expenses increased also a little over $2 million, as you see, $2,082,000. So really, when you see the excess revenue over expenses, it's merely taking the revenue that we're estimating minus those gross expenses. And then you see here, we're estimating now a little over $300,000 of excess revenue over expenses for the current fiscal year. After that, you see some transfers to the capital project fund. As a reminder, we've been moving money in the last 2 years from the general fund when we had excess revenue over expenses into the capital project fund to handle a variety of equipment and other purchases that are necessary and basically needed by the district. And so that's why you see a transfer from the general fund here. In blue, you'll see 150. We originally budgeted 100,000. We think we can put a little bit more towards it. And then we are transferring a little bit more to our healthcare account as well. So again, we're doing favorable as it stands right now. It looks like we're going to be favorable in the general fund. And we're looking to add an additional $56,000 to our fund balance, our general fund balance for the year. So again, I don't want to really get too much level of detail because again, I know that you're reading it, you're looking at it, I don't want to read to you. Does anyone have any questions in regards to this general fund amended budget for this year? Mary?
I just had a quick question, just a reiteration. We're talking about moving money to the capital projects fund, so that is on a basic level, a savings account if something needs to be repaired, replaced.
Yeah, it's
building, like a capital project, is what I'm thinking, like building repairs, boilers.
Yeah, less about repairs, more about adding new, but yeah, repairs can definitely.
I like adding new.
Yeah, definitely repairs can fit into that category, however, because we do a fair amount in our general fund under the maintenance and operations line item that you see there.
Okay.
In the expenditure side, we do a fair amount already in there, and that's Tony's budget. So it just depends on what it is, and there'll be times where we feel that it may be more appropriate as a district to maybe charge it to a capital project fund. Keep in mind, there are several districts that are not in a position to fund a capital project fund from their general fund because they're not growing. We've been fortunate enough as a district the last several years to where we're able to take excess money in the general fund and through board approval transition it to a capital project fund. Otherwise, most districts would have to go to go to the voters and do a bond or a safety fund. We also have that as well. But that would be the only other method besides general fund of funding capital improvements in a district, in a public school district. So good question.
Thank you.
Yes. Good.
So you said that we've got 316 additional FTE.
Correct.
Right, I understand that's primarily OPA shared time. Do you know how many seated students we have additional this year?
I can't answer that right now.
That's fine.
I would consider that.
Okay, I'm just curious. All right.
I think seated was actually down.
Was it?
Traditional seated was down. I do remember at the beginning of the school year in a presentation to all of our employees at Welcome Back, the average over the last 4 years for our traditional seated student is like -3 FTE. It had been incredibly steady. Not big gains, not big losses, very, very steady in that average. I think our traditional seated was down more than -3, but we can follow up and give you the exacts.
Yeah, just curious. Do we know, do you track what might be causing that?
Well, most of it is just the size of our graduation years going out versus the size of the kindergarten years coming in. And so, yep, we tend to pick up students along the way, but, yeah.
Okay, that's fair. Thank you.
I just have a comment. First of all, I love this, thank you. For someone looking at a complicated spreadsheet, some things that I would just like to point out. If there's anyone that would tell us that our OVA program is not making us money, is absolutely insane. If someone wanted to ask what did we do with $2 million, we hired staff and gave them raises. And if somebody would say that our international program never made us money, you would have to look at a $149,000 cut because of the reduction of students in that area. And I just wanted to point that out clearly in the spreadsheet. Anything else?
Does anyone have any other questions regarding the general fund budget, the amended budget? Yes?
As I'm looking at this, I just want to kind of bring the new board members how this came to be. This came to be because we had a lot of questions and they always popped up and there were numbers back and forth, and so it was really hard to get a look at it and say, where are we up, where are we down? And so it was a collaboration between Sam and the previous board and the existing board members that are here to say, give us a color code that tells us when we start to get a little bit, obviously red is, you know, that's a bigger number than we traditionally would like to see. And that might be a positive thing or it might be a negative thing, but we want to know when there's larger variances than normal. So it's really about taking a look at this and seeing through these color codes where we're at. And the startling thing, as Tom just mentioned, there's 5 variances larger than 10%. And those variances are primarily made up of our growth, but in the contributions that we've made to different programs. And that's big. I'm proud to say that we've done a very, very good job with our dollars. We're making the most effect with one of the lowest fund balances that a district gets. And I'm also proud to say that you mentioned earlier about the capital improvement, Mary. We added another $50,000 more than what we did. Our amended budget was $50,000 more than what we thought. A lot of that had to do with the additional students. But that really gives us the opportunity to make investments and still feel comfortable with that we have funds that we can, lack of a better term, rainy day. So when we sit around this table and make a decision to buy a piece of property, we know that we have money set aside for things that could pop up. And that's a very good position to be in. It makes this job a lot easier knowing that we have our eyes on those types of things to make sure that we have checks and balances and money put aside.
And Sam, I wanted to say this, compared to last year's, it's a home run.
Thanks.
I mean, when you talk about the variances, right, there's no misses. The budget was really well done, and your variances are due to increases or decreases that you could not have anticipated then, so great job.
No, in a positive way, obviously. Again,
Yeah, great job.
Thank you very much, appreciate that. Is there any other questions in regards to the budget? Yes.
Please.
So moving forward to next year, how do you come up with next year as you look, say, over the past 5 years and you see a decrease in one line item and think, well, I went down 2% over the past 5 years, I should probably decrease that one?
No, that's a great question. It's a fantastic question. But what I do is I confer with those individuals in the audience, the vast majority of them, the ones that are the principals, the assistant principals in the buildings, and the directors of their own, obviously, departments. And we confer what they see going forward, whether it be their existing operations and how it may stay stagnant or how it may change, whether it as an increase or a decrease in their expenditures per se. And also, in terms of OVA as well, in terms of our international program, it could be a change in the fact that they're looking to get possibly more students, a new program. And so we have those conversations and we do the best of our ability to forecast those numbers going forward. So it's less about looking backwards a few years, it's more about looking about maybe what did we do last year, what are we doing this year, and then what's the conversations we're having now going forward. Putting that all into basically a forecast, if you will, for next year's budget.
Tim, and this is somewhat budget related. You were just at a superintendent's conference recently. Can you give this board an idea of what the tone was from the governor as far as educational spend, what it might look like, and not to ruin their state address here shortly, so I'll shut up so we can watch it.
I'll say this, just the mere presence that the new governor came and talked to the superintendents across the state of Michigan. In the last 2 decades, a governor has never done that before. So I think just by her willingness to come and address us, shows the importance that she's putting on education. I think the statement that stood out for me, she didn't share any financials with us. She said, you'll have to wait till my State of the State address. But this statement did stand out to me. She said, Michigan is not, near the bottom in education because we don't have, our teachers have failed us or our superintendents have failed us. She said, Michigan's near the bottom in education because we as a state have failed to support education. And that mindset, that frame of mind, to me said she's going to be willing to invest back in education. Now, what does that translate to? I have no idea. We're going to find out here shortly. But I'm encouraged that, she cleared her schedule and she came and she personally talked to us, and that she's willing to try and do whatever she can do to support education. So I really have no idea what that's going to translate into when it comes to per pupil increase in our foundation this year, or if it's steady or what. I really don't know.
Anything else for Sam on the revised budget? Yes, please.
I would just like to say thank you for the legend that you have over here. We spent a little bit of time together talking about some of these things before I got on the school board, before I was elected, and I appreciated your time in explaining some of these things to me. This is really helpful to have this. There's so many moving pieces, so thank you very much for clarification.
Thank you for mentioning that. Thank you. Well, thank you.
Sam, you have a safety update for us?
Safety update. So the first of the agenda on the safety items is Oxford High School, and there's two main projects that I want to talk about in brief. I know we've spoken about first the potential electric gate and the bollards that will eventually be placed on the western side of the high school. And so Tony again, has quotes. We're looking to do that and do this project, I should say, after the summer, maybe sometime in fiscal year 1920. And the reason being is there's going to be a fair amount of construction at the high school during the summer months. And so I think it would behoove us as a district to hold off on that piece until basically at least the early fall, mid-fall at the minimum. I do want to say this, and I'm going to touch upon this a little bit later, but this project in and of itself, or these projects, if you consider the bollard separate, will be placed in the safety grant that is due to the Michigan State Police on March 1st as well. So I have several items, and again, these will be two of the items that will be included in that safety grant. The next item that I wanted to mention, and that Tony and I and other administrators have been speaking about, is the LED lighting in the district. And we've been doing it when the general fund can afford it within Tony's budget, the maintenance and operations budget. And it is time for the high school, at the very minimum, the main gym, to have a revamp with some more efficient lighting and some brighter lights. And so Tony's working on getting some numbers for that project. DTE has some cost offsets towards this project that will really help us out as a district. And so I just wanted to mention that. I will attempt to potentially put that into the grant as well, but because of timing, I may not be able to, so it may come out of Tony's general fund budget and maintenance and operations. So I just wanted to bring that up and make you all aware that that project is coming down as well in the next few months. In addition to that, as I mentioned, the safety grant. Last year in the fall, there was a 2018 safety grant. I don't want to belabor this, but we didn't get any funds. Many districts didn't get any funds. There's a new grant, and it's due on March 1st. It's also by the Michigan State Police, and so I'm going to be, along with Tony, putting in much of, if not all of the projects that we had in our application last fall back into this application, and maybe a few more, or swapping some out depending on how we decide to prioritize some of these projects over one another. So I want you to be aware that that's coming down very shortly. In addition to that, we've talked a little bit about Pre-Plan Live. We had Pre-Plan Live come and obviously give everyone an overview. We've had some discussions with them. I had a discussion this week on Monday, but we also had a discussion with our police liaisons and our safety staff about specific next steps and getting basically contact information on board pre-plan so that everyone who needs to be notified, depending on the level, is notified going forward. So I just wanted everyone to be aware that we're constantly meeting with them in regards to basically adopting Pre-Plan Live within the district. So I just want to give you a high-level overview of that. So that's my safety update for the
Any questions? Yes, Dan.
I noticed, I don't know if it was this past Saturday or when it was, up at the high school, we had an event, and it just seemed as though parking was wherever you want to park. I think when we get out of town guests, they might not be aware that we have another parking lot. We've been going on this for 2 years now, trying to train our public, people that are using our buildings, on where to park, where not to park. I love the fact you don't see stripes on either side of your car. It's not a parking spot. do we have signs, or can we have signs that say north parking available when we know we're gonna have, even if they're just the little ones that you pop out, additional parking, to the north? Especially for those folks that aren't coming to Oxford on a regular basis. I mean, to me, if we don't take the steps to do this and something happens, where are we liable? I'm concerned that we're setting ourselves up, because we've been talking about this for a while. And if we don't do anything and somebody gets hurt and an ambulance couldn't get in there, where do we fall in that culpability standpoint? So I get really irritated that people can't park in the right spot. And like I said, we've been going down this road, and I feel bad for the folks at the high school. They're trying their best. It's just a matter of people use some common sense.
Superintendent Thurman.
Yeah, thanks for the question and the comments, Dan. So I went up and spoke with Mr. Ford, one of our security people up there on Friday as well, of some prior incidences a few nights before and the weekend before, even in anticipation of Saturday. And so I do want you, Dan, to know, and our public to know, that our high school, specifically Jordan and the athletic department, has done a really good job ahead of time of when we are promoting contests and things like that we do let them know of parking spots and things like that. This is where we're at, plain and simple. We have people coming up, parking where they shouldn't. We have security people out there when the people are leaving their car and they're saying, that's not a parking place, please move it or you're going to get ticketed. And the people basically saying, we don't care. And so I met with Lieutenant Patterson on Monday, and after a weekend of writing multiple tickets, let me say this loud and clear to the camera, okay, your cars are not only going to be ticketed, we're going to start towing. So now when you pull up and you park in a spot that you shouldn't, we're going to tell you, if you keep your car there, you're going to get ticketed and towed. And if they walk away, you're going to be ticketed and towed. Don't come screaming back at us that you didn't know or whatever. And so we are taking it to the next level. We're going to continue to write tickets, but we are not going to start towing cars. We are going to get them out of there.
Thank you, appreciate the update.
Just shame we have to do it, that's crazy.
It's infuriating, but I appreciate the update. It makes me glad that we could have a serious problem.
And we have a high school that has a lot of parking. Yes, please.
And I just want to thank you for that statement, Tim, because we came close a couple of years ago with the robotics team on a Saturday, and it was a robotic parent parking in a place that they shouldn't have parked in, and we needed an ambulance to come in for one of our people. So I'm also very passionate about people staying where they're supposed to stay, and I agree, you got some people who just won't. So thank you for the painting on the curbs and the tickets, and please get them out of there.
Board members, anything else for Sam on the safety update?
One quick comment.
Yes, sir.
For the safety grant, is there any indication of why we did not get that last time? What's different now?
No, but I will say at a very high level, there was no rhyme or reason, because we looked for one. The ask in totality for the entire state of Michigan was $69 million amongst all public school districts, and also some charters as well. 25 million was available. So, in short, it was oversubscribed.
Yes.
A question about that too. When you were talking, I was curious about this. When you apply for a grant to do something or replace something, does it have to be something that isn't included in our bond or our sinking fund, or can it be anything?
It can be anything as long as, again, they approve it. I mean, they're going to go through each application, because I know of several districts that did get funded, not close, personally, like Rochester, some of theirs. But there were several other districts, though, that asked for quite a bit of money, and they got maybe a portion. Maybe they asked for $500,000 and they got $35,000.
Okay.
So they are going through and selecting based on whatever criteria they're using to fund districts, either zero, a little bit, fully, so it just depends. Again, we're talking about a $25 million grant last fall, which sounds fantastic, and it was. But you're also looking at, again, $69 million of ask in totality across the state. So you can see the need is really there.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so.
Interesting, okay.
Thank you.
Sam, before we look at this motion for the OVA expansion, do you want to talk about that a little bit first?
Oh, absolutely. The OVA expansion, just for those that aren't aware, obviously within Marketplace, there are 2 existing OVA locations. This is an expansion into an additional 4,800 square feet. It's 162 is the address, 162 South Washington specifically. And so Tony and I and IDS Architecture, what we did is we advertised for bids, and Tony was integral in putting out a bid package with IDS, our architect. And as you see in front of you, we were able to get, or hopefully you see in front of you, if not the minimum in your board packet, we received 5 sealed bids. And the lowest bid on the remodeling, I shouldn't say remodeling, but it is. It's an empty space right now. On the construction of the new OVA 162 South Washington space, the lowest bid coming in was $314,000 amongst 5 bidders. And so basically the recommendation this evening is for acceptance of the lowest bid.
Who was that?
It was JCS Construction. Would someone like to make that motion before we have a discussion? Please, Heather.
Move to approve the recommended contractor JCS Construction in the amount of $314,417 for the over-expansion project at 162 South Washington Street, Oxford.
Is there support? Chad, support? Discussion? Yes.
Do we know if, has JCS worked in conjunction with IDS or our general contractor at some point? We know their level of work, their level of capacity.
Let me briefly answer what I do know, and then I'll let, if Tony doesn't mind. We are the general contractor. Tony is the general contractor on this particular project. We are not utilizing Clark Construction Services in any way, shape, or form on this project. That is strictly for the bond and sinking fund work. Right. So Tony's working with IDS to basically manage this project. I just want to be very clear.
I kind of been more of a construction manager.
Yeah.
We have not personally in the district done anything with JCS, but they come very highly recommended by IDS. Actually, the mall management company that owns the mall.
Okay.
That's how we actually got connected with them. And they've worked for a lot of big developers like Showstack and that. This work is right in their wheelhouse.
Okay.
Offices, the interior build-outs and everything like that. After our interview and everything with them, they seem like they're going to be a really good fit for this project. This is their kind of a fit that certain niche. They look for these kind of projects.
So they're not the big boys, but they're not the small guys.
Exactly.
This is right where they...
This is right where they want to be. Yeah.
And any chance that they're somewhat local?
They're using a lot of local contractors.
Okay.
There's subcontractors for them. I believe they're out of, I want to say, were they, no, not Livermore. I think they were Walled Lake or something like that.
Okay.
They're southeast Michigan.
Great, thank you. Thanks.
Any other comments or questions? Yes, Corey.
If we're acting as the general contractor, if you will, we thoroughly gone through overages or changes or things like that, so if surprises come up, it's not going from 314 to 414 to 514.
So again, Tony went through that with the architect, and we also had some addendums to, obviously, the sealed bids as well, to ensure that what was put out there prior to receiving the sealed bids was indeed understood. And in addition to that, when you get the sealed bids back and you go and open them and you start looking at what is there and what isn't, it vets out some of these not subcontractors, some of these contractors as potential vendors. So Tony, I don't know if you want to speak a little bit more to that as well.
Yeah, we did a good scope on, we had good plans and specs. I don't anticipate a lot of, contingency or anything like that. I mean, we thought, it's a real complete package. I'm real comfortable with it.
And 4 of the bids were within $35,000. So it was relatively tight.
Yeah, and the fact that we had 5 bidders in this market right now, I think they all want to, there's actually a need out there for gap work, I call it.
Yeah.
Guys are looking for something to pick up real quick because we want to get it kicked off real quick and get it done before the summer work starts. And guys are like, this is right there, this is perfect for us, so.
And it's indoors.
Well, it's indoors, and all the demos done. So it's ready to go.
Yeah,
Project's
awesome.
ready to go right now, so I'm excited about it.
That's great.
Anything else? Ready for a vote? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, Mr. Pass.
Thank you. First of all, I just want to thank the board for approving our personnel recommendations. And I have a couple of great staff members, resource room position, as well as our MTSS psychologist position here at the house in our central office. Also, just to give you an update, we did begin our process of interviews today for the virtual academy assistant principal position. We had 169 applicants, so pretty impressive pool of candidates, and we had a full slate today, snow and all. Started at 8:30 and wrapped up around 5 o'clock. So great group of candidates, and we'll have a couple more rounds of interviews through this process to land our final recommendation that hope to bring to the board soon.
All right, thank you very much. Anything from the board members for Mr. Pass? Sweet.
And we had the board memo for schools of choice last week or 2 weeks ago. So there's a motion for schools of choice for fall.
Dan?
Move to approve the school of choice enrollment for the first trimester of 2019. Developmental kindergarten through 9th grade, unlimited. 10th and 11th grade, unlimited to IB. Health Science, Engineering Academy and Fine Arts Conservatory. 9th through 11th grades, unlimited to early college. Unlimited school of choice enrollment will open March 1st, 2019 and close August 22nd, 2019. Kindergarten through 12th, unlimited Oxford Virtual Academy. Unlimited schools of choice enrollment will be open on March 1st, 2019 and close August 21st, 2019.
Is there support for the motion, Corey? Support, discussion?
One of it is,
Yes.
it's written correctly here, as Dan read it, it was, you said August 22nd.
9th through 12th, unlimited early college? Which one?
Right, yes.
Okay. I'll amend it to read 9th through 11th grades, unlimited to early college. Unlimited school of choice enrollment will open on March 1st, 2019 and close August 21st, 2019.
Champ, thank you for catching that. Anything else? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Now for the exciting read. The policies. Yes?
Move to approve the first reading of policy numbers 1422, 3122, 4122, non-discrimination and equal employment opportunity revised, 1662, 3362, 4362, anti-harassment, 2112, parent and family engagement, 2260, non-discrimination and access to equal educational opportunity. 2261, Title I services. 2261.01, parent and family member participation in Title I programs. 2261.03, district and school report card. 2271, post-secondary dual enrollment option program. 2700, PA annual reports. 3120, employment of professional staff. 3120.04, employment of substitutes. 3130, assignment and transfer. 4162, controlled substance and alcohol policy for commercial motor vehicles. Drivers and other employees who perform safety-sensitive functions. 5517, anti-harassment. 5517.02, sexual violence. 5540, interrogation of students. 5610, emergency removal, suspension, and expulsion of students. 5611, due process rights. 5630.01, student seclusion and restraint. 6325, procurement, federal grants and funds. 8210, school calendar. Can we continue with the bylaws?
Sure, yes, please.
And bylaws. Bylaw 0100, definitions. Bylaw 0122, board powers. Bylaw 0131.1, bylaws and policies. Bylaw 0143.1, public expression of board members. Bylaw 0165.6, cancellation. Bylaw 0166, agenda. Bylaw 0167.1, voting. Bylaw 0167.2, closed session. Bylaw 0167.3, public participation at board meetings. Bylaw 0167.6, use of social media. And we're rescinding policy 5610.01. Policy 5610.01 has been included in both policies 5610 and policy 5610.01 should be rescinded.
Thank you. Is there support? Mary? Discussion? Yes, sir.
If you look at policy 0100, very last page, there was a question, or the way it's written said, a vote at a meeting of the Board of Education, board members must be physically present in order to have their vote officially recorded. And then there is an option, if the board member has notified the board president prior to participate remote, such as Skype or something like that. I know that's never been something in the past. Is that something that we would want to talk about or look at as a possibility for some of the meetings where we may not have enough for a quorum with board members that travel? I know it's never been anything in the past.
We have had an issue.
Policy?
We have
What
had.
number was it?
0100.
Yes, please. We have had an issue in the past, Tim, if you can recall, it might have been 4 years ago, maybe even 5, where a board member called to make sure that there wasn't a fifth that needed to be involved in a vote. And that wasn't the case, so that board member was removed from the discussion because they were trying to hear from work or whatnot. It was a short meeting, but so we have had it in the past, and I don't know if we want to make some provisions in our policy that states that they can at least a phone call can be made to see if there's going to be a vote and there's not enough people for a quorum.
Because I remember last year when Jenny was sick and Joyce was out, I was coming back from Chicago and gave us a quorum, but with traffic wanting to be 30 minutes late, is that an option with so many businesses using Skype and other means? Is that something that we may want to look at as the last alternative?
Please.
And we discussed this a lot when we met as a policy committee. I don't know that I think it's a good practice to put in the policy that we would necessarily allow it. I know it was done in the past, like you said, on kind of a case-by-case, call-by-call situation. I think that, we're supposed to function as a board and be here as a board and listen to the presentations and see the people and feel the, I don't want to necessarily say emotional, but I mean, get involved and be here, present at the meeting. I think our constituents asked that of us when they voted on who they were gonna put into place on the board. We made a commitment that we would be able to be here. I know sometimes a work or a family vacation or something might make you miss a meeting, but I don't know that we should have a policy in place that just kind of gives it free rein to just call in and Skype if you need to and you can't make it. And I think that sets a very unprofessional precedence of what a board meeting is supposed to be. This is a high level, we're talking and approving about hiring people and lots of money, and this is something I think that should be taken seriously, and we need to. That's my opinion.
So while I don't disagree with what you're saying, I believe there was recent legislation that states that we need to put something in our bylaws that allow for Skype for service members who happen to be away from on deployment, we'll say. So I don't know if we use that as the impetus to put a provision in the bylaw that says only under extreme circumstances would we use something like that, but I think there's going to need to be some sort of wording around that type of technology anyway. But I'm not saying that I necessarily. Go ahead.
Are you saying not for board members that might be active military, but for people to view the meeting? I guess that's...
No, for elected board members that are on deployment. We'll say reservists.
Let's say they're in the reserves. All right. Yeah. I'm trying to think in my mind how that would be possible. You're in the military and you're on board. It would be nearly impossible to have to step down.
Yeah, there wasn't, I'm trying to remember where I heard it. There was no clear definition as to what level of service they were talking about, but I think probably in our circumstances it would probably be a reservist.
And as I elaborate more on what I mentioned earlier, I completely 100% agree with you, Heather. We should be here. I think that incident came up when we were pressed up against to maybe get a budget in, and it had to be voted, on to make sure that we got it in by June 30th.
Yeah.
So those are very rare situations where you have to do it because the law says you have to do it. We make some sort of provision in there, and to take that provision away, I want to make sure that we're not getting ourselves in trouble if that ever arises. Like I said, I can't remember how long ago it was, but I can remember there was. As a matter of fact, we were in this room and trying to get the comment. So, but I 100% agree with what you're saying. We need to be here.
When we have a policy that says that we can Skype and we can do this, I'm not saying this sitting board, but who's to say that down the road everyone's going to be like, I'll just Skype in, I can't make it. I just think that it sets a tone and creates a lax environment.
I agree as well.
I'm not talking about emergency situations, because that can be dealt with on an emergency situation. If we were to have a military person, that could be revisited at that time.
I agree with you 100%.
But I think you're right, though. If we were to include a provision that allows that, the verbiage has to be very tight to make sure that it's not abused.
And the one concern I have is that if we are shy of a quorum, that means we have 3 of us missing. If only one of us can get on Skype that night, that person's got a very powerful vote.
Right.
If we can't get all 3 on Skype, right? And so one of the things I would want to tell the public is we're talking to each other days before a meeting. And so unless there's a family emergency, we know ahead of time who's going to be here and who's not going to be here. So we have been able to navigate. But yes, if we ever get to this route, and someday I'm sure technology will take us here, there's some policy rules and things that we have to think about, because you've got 3 people missing, and if one gets on Skype, that's a pretty powerful vote. get all three on Skype, because it's an important meeting, not just because it's a meeting, but it's an essential meeting, I would say you have to have all of them.
Well, that's why I wanted that brought up, because right now, we don't have that. But with this policy, there's option. So, I mean, it's up to your discretion, 72 hours ahead.
Right.
Right now, there is no option.
I get it, but I think we need some rules first. I mean, I think we want to put some meat on that policy. Do y'all agree?
Yeah, I agree.
Any other discussion on that? So we're ready to vote? No? What do we need? We got a second. Yeah, we did get a second, right?
Get a second.
Yes.
And according to here, I am Mary. Sorry.
Mary. We have to have a second to have discussion.
Discussion. I didn't get that far. Thank you to the policy subcommittee for getting all this together.
Yes.
Thank you for your work. Much appreciated.
So all those in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Angela, do we have any unscheduled audience participation?
No, sir.
Thank you. You've got some scheduled events at number 12. Any clarification, sir?
None.
Final board comments. Eric, why don't we start with you?
Okay. So what I was going to say earlier when I was looking at the kind of Jenga experiment in front of us, what I really was kind of coming up with is that it's almost like they're getting into the psychology of education and teaching, which I thought was really kind of cool. And the other thing I took away is I really felt like these kids are learning important life skills, and to use your words, via relevance to them. So I plan on using that tomorrow in my staff meetings. So I learned a little IB at work. I learned a life skill today. Thank you. That's it.
Chad.
So I shared some of my thoughts on the IB presentation as we were going along, but so again, just thank you to the ladies that presented to us. I was excited to see, because I could feel the passion in the presentation, and I think that's the number one key that we need to really convey the purpose, right, to the students and to the community. So I'm excited to see that. Angela, thank you again for the workshop last week.
You're welcome.
I like to be a lifetime learner, so it's good to, some of a lot of the concepts we were talking about, board role stuff, things that I've heard before in the MASB training and stuff, but always good to sit in the room with folks and talk through a lot of that stuff. So I appreciate that stuff. So I'm excited to hear what Whitmer has to say in her address.
Thank you, Chad. Heather?
I echo what they said about the IB program. Thank you very much for the, I think they already left, but I always love our IB presentations. They come up with a creative way, I think, to show us what they're up to and what they're doing. And, I think our exhibition, which is coming up in a couple of months, if people want to really find out more about it or haven't seen it in a couple of years, it's worth kind of stopping in and seeing a couple of those presentations, because that really is a showstopper, I think, of where they're at and how they're learning. So great job to those ladies for doing that, and thank you, Sam, for putting together your color-coded also, which is really easy to read. So. We have school tomorrow.
Mary?
I didn't know enough about the IB program before, and I'm really grateful that they came out and shared all that information. What a great, I'm really proud to be part of this district where we're actually teaching young kids these these values that will last, that aren't necessarily significant to one group or special just for one group of people, but really teaching kids about caring about each other, and taking action, and and what next. I was really, what a great skill to learn as a young person, because that's what a lot of young people don't think about, and a lot of older folks too. But to have them think things through, teach them how to learn, I just think that's absolutely amazing. It's just fantastic. And accountability. One of the things I wrote on my brief, we talked about integrity, and then for me that involves a lot of personal integrity. It was who do you stand up for, and what do you do, and who are you accountable to? So that was just really fantastic. Almost as exciting as the color-coded report. That is great. But it's nice to have this.
Okay, I was feeling good about myself.
I love color coding. I absolutely love color coding. It's so helpful. And thanks for this. And I wasn't here before when it was a lot more complicated, so thank you for all this. I wanted to share also that I took advantage of the CDA classes that were offered downtown over the weekend, because I can't seem to stop learning stuff also. So I took 6 classes. Thank you, Angela, for helping me get all that done. It was great to meet some other people, learn about what they were doing. It was great to learn that what we're doing here is right on line with what we're supposed to be doing when it comes to budgets and governance and data-informed decision meetings, Open Meetings Act. So it's nice to know that we're exactly where we're supposed to be here, because there's some groups that aren't. So great job, Timo. Thank you so much. And that's what I got. Thanks.
Thank you, Mary. Corey, how do you follow that? Yeah, and I wish the IB crew was still here. If you guys get a chance to do any of the exhibitions, if you've never been to one, go to one. Several years ago, we had a experimental project for the automotive. We hadn't even launched this to the public yet. And my daughter was on a group that was going over some air emissions and things like that, and worked with Rita over at OES. And I got to show them this product and the literature and stuff we've been developing. We weren't going to launch this for another month. And I actually videoed these kids with their presentation, with everything that they did, and took it to our board of directors. And he said, I got a group of project managers, engineers, everything else, and we haven't come up with a presentation to do the public, and we've got a group of 5th graders. I'm not going to lie to you that we didn't use a lot of that information in our presentation out in Vegas. These are impressive presentations that these kids put together, and you really need to go to one if you haven't been to one. So they do an awesome job. Then the only follow-up, I had a house full of teenage girls at my house today. Tim, you gotta stop these snow.
That's for you.
Singing and noise, and I got no work done today.
I'll note that.
It's not in your review though, just saying.
It might be. Dan?
Well, first I want to apologize to the board for not being there at our meeting last Saturday. Being the new kid at work, I use that word kid very loosely. You kind of have to go to those things, so I do apologize for not being there. I look forward to those because it's a good chance to kind of get to know each other on a different level rather than being around the table. And so my apologies. But Tom, when you had said earlier in the meeting, when are you a school board, when are you not a school board member, I'd be used as a cautionary tale. You're always a school board member. And when people think that they're telling you something or they're asking you something as Dan D'Alessandro, community member, be careful on how you answer those questions because you are Dan D'Alessandro school board member, and you're never Dan D'Alessandro citizen, or Heather Schaefer, or Chapter, anybody, any of us. So keep that in the back of your mind. We do have a chain of command, and that chain of command, we are the last piece of that, and it all starts with school administrators, teachers, school administrators, superintendent, and then if all else fails, then we're that last ditch effort for people to. Not that they can't voice their concerns, because they still do, but we have to understand that we're not here to fix their scheduling problem from their child in high school. That's not our role, and you did a great job of explaining it, and I hope everybody listened, but I just wanted to let you know I've been in that position before. So as far as the IB, the money that we spend on IB and all the programs, we need to do a really good job of examining them, of everything that we spend our money on, acting on it, and supporting it. So I think it was 9 years ago, Ken, when we started the whole IB. We examined it at that point. We acted on it shortly thereafter, and we continue to support 9 years later. The common comment that I hear out there a lot of times, and that's why I asked the question, what IB is and what IB isn't. I think a lot of people will have the misconception that IB is those students that are going to get an IB diploma, and why are we spending hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars on 50 students? It's not what this is about. And it was a great presentation, because I think it opened up our minds as to what IB really truly looks like if we're doing it the right way. And we're very fortunate. Christine, Rita, and Stephanie, they have a passion for this. And when you have a passion for it, you can keep loading their plate, and they'll keep delivering. And they'll keep whittling away at whatever's on their plate, and not only do it, but do it very well, with a high level of excitement, and that translates to our students and the results that we're seeing. Sport it's not always easy when you're sitting here, because you're going to get hit those questions. But go back to this, the color-coded chart, and understand that our dollars that we're spending are affecting every student in every corner of our district. Tim, one last thing. I know Corey had a house full of teenagers, and I know he's joking, but job well done, because I know you get a lot of heat, not just from social media, how it's put out there, what time we call it, what time we don't call it. I wouldn't want to do it, and that's why I take my hat off to you and to the staff that's traveling the back roads. I drove all the way down to Detroit. Roads were perfect. You travel 2 miles down a dirt road that's got ice and snow on it. We have no business putting buses and children on those roads, so I will continue to lean on you and the staff to make the great calls, and I hope that the public understands that it's not easy. It's not easy on our staff. It's not easy on the central office. Certainly not easy on the superintendent. And it's certainly not easy on those board members that get the texts, hey, are we closed yet?
That's ordinary. How come we haven't?
That's when you truly realize you're not being asked as Dan D'Alessandro. You're being asked as a board member.
Tax number 10, I just shut my mouth off. I'm done.
So, thank you.
Oh, my. Ken, before you made your comment, after my education, 8 years of college, as IB presentation was going on today, I began to say to myself, I memorized a lot of facts, not always knowing why, didn't have a hook, didn't have a connection, but I had to pass a test, right? And I think for the teacher, that's probably the easiest way to teach. IB's not easy. It's not easy. It's not easy for a staff. It's not an easy way to do something, because like you said, it's a journey, it's organic. that means it keeps moving, it keeps growing, right? You don't create a curriculum and go, okay, it's good for now 3, 4, 5 years, right? So I just commend our district for saying, we're willing to put in the work. We're willing to put in the work because we believe if we get these kids asking the right questions, light bulbs will go on and they'll see the connections. And when they see the connections, that's going to create care and action because something's got to get done, which is what we want our kids to be when they're adult citizens. Seeing things, evaluating, making decisions, finding a way to collaboratively work through these things. And so, man, oh man, oh man. And this is the third time now in a meeting recently that I've heard that kids from one school have gone to another. I was never in elementary school, went to high school. Right? They were just so separated. The fact that you guys are taking kids, transporting them to a high school and having high school kids care enough to involve little, that is going to pay off. That is going to pay off. Amended budget, thank you. Well done. I wonder how many districts in Michigan lost seated students and gained $2 million. We did. We did. Kudos to OVA and shared time. And again, a progressive way of thinking how to get kids educated and how to get them where they need to get and being on the front lines of that. Exciting. Just exciting. Sir?
Can I add one more thing?
Of course you can,
yeah. Thanks. But to your point, kudos to the entire staff because when you're growing in those other areas, sometimes that means that our other principals and building administrators are giving up a little bit so that we can experience that type of growth. And that's difficult to do because you have things that you are challenged with and tasked with to grow and improve. And I know, and I just want to thank everybody that gives up a little bit of their budget so that we can grow in other areas for the greater good. And that's tremendous. That's one of the great things we got going here at Oxford is everybody, they might not be happy about it, they pitch in and they give where they can. So,
thank you, Dan. Mr. Thurman.
Thank you. Just a few items. I think, well, obviously, I really appreciate all the work that our PYP coordinators have done. To me, the rubber hits the road when you hear little things like, we realized we had holes. Okay, that takes some humility to admit that. And it takes even more intestinal fortitude that at the end of the day, it's an easy thing to say, okay, it's a process, it's a journey, and things are going to continually change. It's another thing when you're asked to change your daily habits. And that's what our teachers have been doing. We haven't allowed our teachers to say, I've been teaching math in 3rd grade this way for the last 20 years and I'm going to continue teaching it 10 more years this way. They haven't been allowed to do that. And it takes a lot of good leadership and grit to keep going after something like that and to continually try and make our curriculum better. Not only do we want to bring our best, but we got to become our best. And if you are willing to become your best, that means you're changing your daily habits. And I can tell you, 99% of the people out there don't want to change their daily habits. It's really hard to do. So I appreciate their work. I also want to give a shout out to Tony and Ann, especially Ann. So she's on the road by 4 a.m. every day. And whether we're calling school or not calling school, they're going down a whole list of roads, parking lots, sidewalks, what's the latest weather forecast, has something already occurred, has something changed, is something moving north, is something moving south. And she has had a really clear mind at 4 o'clock in the morning. I'm telling you, she knows what those bus drivers can do and what they can't. And that just, it gives me really good peace. So I want to shout out to Tony and Ann for helping out on that. The last thing I want to do is just give you a quick update. So our final easements have been approved by the township engineer. Those have been sent to the township attorney. We're awaiting approval on the township attorney. The other thing that has to happen is the other adjoining landowner has to release the restrictions that were previously on our piece of land. That has not happened yet. Everyone, I was told today, or updated today, that the seller, the township, the adjoining landowner, everyone has been constantly working on this. And so what I want you to know is we're not going to get it done by Friday. We're just not going to get everything signed and the things that need to be done, but that's okay. And so I'm just going to sign another amendment to give us some more time. But from our perspective, our lawyer, Gordon at Throne, he was really pleased where everything's at. And so we're going to keep plowing forward and we'll get it done. It's just not going to be done by this Friday. And so we'll just extend that time frame a little bit more and we will get it done. So just wanted to give you an update.
Anything under other?
None.
Then it's a great day to be a what? Wildcat. Meeting adjourned.